The Zolari had conquered countless Deathworlds. Torak Prime, where acid storms stripped flesh from bone in seconds, conquered. Xiphos 9, where gravity crushed lesser species into pulp, subjugated. Varicose, where the native lifeforms exhaled neurotoxins lethal to anything not of their kind, dominated. The Zolari, warlords of the stars, had never lost. Their empire stretched across the cosmos, an unbroken chain of brutal victories. Every world deemed uninhabitable fell beneath their iron rule. Then they reached Earth. First contact, a Zolari fleet, battle-worn and brimming with confidence, descended into the Sol system. Their scouts had analyzed the planet. It was a Class 12 Deathworld, deadly, yes, but nothing they hadn't conquered before. Oxygen-rich atmosphere, volatile weather, high biodiversity. A warlike native species. They had crushed worse. Admiral Varesh stood aboard the command bridge of the dreadnought Voraker as they entered Earth's orbit. Initial reports came in. Dominant species, self-named humans. Physically unimpressive. No natural armor, weak musculature, fragile bones. A scoff rippled through the bridge. Conquering these creatures would be effortless. Then came the second report. Survival traits, extreme adaptability, high aggression, unparalleled problem-solving. Varesh frowned. Adaptability was dangerous. Still, the Zolari had fought chameleonic predators, hive minds, and shapeshifters before. They had protocols for adaptability. Then the final report arrived. History of warfare, unprecedented. The list was horrifying. Humans had waged war not just against each other, but against their own environment. They had turned deserts into fortresses, frozen wastelands into battlegrounds. They had fought on land, sea, air, and space before they had even left their own solar system. They had created weapons that could unmake entire civilizations. And despite all this, they thrived. Varesh hesitated. It was the first time in his long, blood-stained career that he felt doubt. The first mistake. The invasion began in earnest. The Zolari landed in what their intelligence deemed a high-value region. A city, sprawling and dense with millions of humans. They had expected panic. What they got was resistance. Not just from an organized military. From everyone. Civilians did not flee, they fought. With anything they had primitive projectile weapons, explosives, even sharpened blades. They didn't just fight for survival. They fought to win. Their tactics were unpredictable. They adapted faster than any species the Zolari had ever encountered. They repurposed alien technology within hours. They turned their own ruined cities into death traps. Then came the biological horrors. Human diseases, harmless to their own kind, tore through the Zolari ranks like wildfire. They had never encountered pathogens so aggressive, mutating faster than their medical systems could react. The war, meant to last days, stretched into months. The Zolari, undefeated conquerors of Deathworlds, were being hunted. The final lesson. Admiral Varesh watched from orbit as yet another Zolari outpost fell to human forces. Not soldiers, civilians. This species was not just warlike. War was woven into their very being. He issued the only command left. The retreat from Earth shattered the illusion of Zolari invincibility. Admiral Varesh had lost more warriors in a single campaign than in the last century of conquest. The Zolari, masters of war, had been forced to flee not from superior technology, not from overwhelming numbers, but from something far worse. From humans. Back in Zolari Prime's war chambers, the ruling warlords refused to accept the defeat. They demanded retaliation, a counter-invasion with even greater force. Varesh, still recovering from his wounds, spoke against it. This is not a world we can take. We underestimated them. They are worse than any Deathworld we have ever seen. The warlords scoffed. You fear a species that lacks exoskeletons? That does not have natural weapons? That does not even wield psionic abilities? Varesh's mandibles tightened. He had seen it firsthand. They do not need those things. They use their minds as weapons. Their entire history is one of war, fought with ingenuity, desperation, and cruelty. If we attack again, we will not return. The warlords did not listen. The second fleet launched a full-scale invasion, 3 times larger than the first. It never returned. The Zolari learned fear. The few survivors that managed to send transmissions before they were annihilated painted a picture of sheer horror. Humans had learned. The tactics that had slowed the first invasion, they had improved them. They knew the Zolari's weaknesses, their patterns, their technology. Humans did not just resist, they adapted, they countered, they evolved, they turned every battle into a slaughterhouse for the Zolari. Even when the warlords finally accepted their loss, it was too late. Because now, humanity knew they existed. For the first time in history, the Zolari Empire braced itself for an invasion, but humans did not come immediately. No, they took their time. They learned the Zolari language, hacked their networks, studied their worlds, their infrastructure, their biology. Then the attacks began. Not planetary assaults, not grand invasions at first. No, humanity fought as they always had, unpredictably. Entire supply chains collapsed overnight, communication relays were wiped out, high-ranking Zolari leaders disappeared without a trace, no battlefields, no grand fleet engagements, just death, swift and precise. And when humanity did arrive with their warships, the Zolari finally understood what true terror was. Because humans did not just want to win. They wanted revenge. The final transmission, the Zolari Empire, once unchallenged, now burned. Their homeworld lay in ruins, their fleets were scattered, their warlords, once so arrogant, now begged for mercy. But humanity showed none. Admiral Varesh, the only one who had ever understood what they were dealing with, sent out one final transmission as human dreadnoughts descended upon the last Zolari stronghold. We thought Earth was just another Deathworld. We were wrong. Humans are not a species. They are an extinction event. The Zolari Empire had fallen. Once the mightiest force in the galaxy, it had been reduced to ashes in a war that lasted only a handful of years, not because humanity had superior numbers or technology, but because they fought like no species ever had. The Zolari had sought conquest. Humanity sought annihilation. Their fleets did not stop at military targets. They dismantled infrastructure, sabotaged supply lines, bombed entire cities into dust. They took no prisoners. They did not negotiate. They exterminated every last remnant of the empire that had dared to set foot on their world. Some Zolari tried to flee to neutral space. It did not matter. The humans hunted them down. Every colony, every hidden outpost, every last survivor eradicated. It was only when the Zolari species had been all but wiped from existence that humanity finally stopped. And in the silence that followed, the rest of the galaxy trembled. The broadcast, when the war ended, humanity sent a single message to the stars. No diplomatic overtures, no warnings, just a statement. We are humanity. You came to our world as conquerors, you left as corpses. We do not seek war, but if war finds us, we will end it, permanently. Remember the Zolari, remember what happened to them. And never make the same mistake. The message echoed across every known system. Empires that had existed for millennia suddenly revised their strategies. Predators who had once thought themselves unstoppable now fought twice before expanding. The galaxy's rulers, warlords, and conquerors all made the same decision. Humanity was to be left alone. Some whispered of forming alliances, of bringing Earth into the galactic fold. Others feared that if they approached the humans, it might be mistaken for aggression. For a long time, no one dared test them. But there were always fools in the universe. And the next empire that decided to challenge humanity? They would learn, just as the Zolari had, why humans are war. The galaxy held its breath. For decades after the fall of the Zolari, no empire dared approach Earth. Humanity, now a specter of annihilation, had returned to silence. Their fleets did not expand, their soldiers did not conquer, they simply waited. It was as if they had no interest in the rest of the galaxy at all. But power, once demonstrated, never remains unchallenged forever. The Vorka Dominion was the first to test them. A young and aggressive empire, they saw Earth's inaction not as restraint, but as weakness. The Vorka were brutal, their empire forged through blood and conquest. They had subjugated dozens of species with sheer military might. To them, the Zolari had simply been weak. They had failed because they lacked the resolve to crush humanity. The Vorka would succeed where the Zolari had perished. They sent a fleet, a single warning shot. One of humanity's outer colonies, A quiet research world on the fringe of their space was glassed from orbit. 10 million dead. A challenge had been issued. The Vorka were prepared for a counterattack. What they were not prepared for, what no species in the galaxy could ever be prepared for, was what came next. Because humanity did not retaliate immediately. They let the Vorka think they had one. Then, a month later, Vorka supply routes started failing. Their ships disappeared without a trace. Communications blacked out. Entire sectors of Vorka space went dark. By the time their leaders realized what was happening, it was too late. The Vorka homeworld burned. And the humans did not stop there. A lesson in fear. This time, the galaxy was watching. The Vorka Dominion was not like the Zalari. They had been strong. They had stood at the peak of interstellar warfare. They had believed themselves untouchable. And yet, when the war ended, nothing remained of them. Not their fleets. Not their armies. Not even their history. Humanity erased them so thoroughly that within a generation, no one even remembered the Vorka had existed. That was the true horror of humanity. It was not their firepower. It was not their technology. It was their methodology. They did not just kill their enemies. They erased them. A galaxy united in terror. After the Vorka were wiped from existence, the galactic community convened. Empires that had warred for centuries now sat at the same table. Rivals who had slaughtered each other's people now whispered in hushed voices. Because they all agreed on one thing. Humanity could never be provoked again. A pact was signed, a new law, unbreakable, unchallenged, absolute. No empire, no fleet, no species would ever attempt war against humanity, not a single shot, not even a border dispute. It was no longer about diplomacy. It was about survival. The pact had a name. The Silence Doctrine. And so, for the first time in galactic history, war ceased. Because no one dared risk waking the monsters on Earth. But humanity had other plans. For years, the Silence Doctrine kept peace. For years, no one spoke to Earth. For years, no one dared approach. Until, one day, without warning, a human fleet appeared on the borders of Council space. They did not come as conquerors. They came with envoys. They came with proposals. They came not to erase, but to build. The galaxy, once united by fear, now faced a new, terrifying question. What if humanity did not want to be left alone? What if, after years of silence, they had finally turned their attention outward? And what if the only thing more dangerous than humanity at war was humanity seeking power? For decades, the galaxy had lived in fear of Earth. The Silence Doctrine had prevented war, kept the peace not out of goodwill, but out of terror. And then, humanity broke the silence. Their fleet, once thought to be a thing of nightmares, arrived in Council space. Not with weapons, but with diplomats. The First Contact Summit, the Galactic Council was in chaos. For over 50 years, no one had spoken to humanity. No one had dared. Even now, as their envoy ship hovered above the capital world of Zalvator, many believed this was not diplomacy but an ultimatum. The council convened in the Grand Chamber. The most powerful species in the galaxy, rulers, senators, warlords, sat in tense silence as the doors opened. Two humans entered. They were unarmed, no armor, no visible weapons, just simple black suits and calm, unreadable expressions. One of them stepped forward and smiled. "Shall we begin?" The galaxy held its breath. The proposal. Humanity did not come to demand surrender. They did not come to destroy. They came with a deal. For 50 years, you have feared us, and yet, we have not expanded, we have not waged war, we have only watched. That time is over. A ripple of unease spread through the chamber. We offer a choice, a partnership, an alliance. Murmurs erupted. The concept was unthinkable. Humanity had never needed allies. They had proven they could stand alone. Why would they extend a hand now? One of the counselors, a reptilian Vashkai, hissed, "And if we refuse?" The human diplomat's smile did not fade. "Then nothing changes. We remain silent. You remain afraid. And the galaxy continues as it is until someone else makes a mistake." A heavy silence filled the room. Because they all knew it was only a matter of time before some empire, some arrogant fool, broke the silence doctrine. And the next war might not end with just one species erased. It might end with all of them gone. A galaxy at a crossroads. The proposal fractured the council. Some saw it as an opportunity, a chance to align with the most dangerous species ever known. Others saw it as a trap. Because if humanity joined the galactic stage, they would not just be another player. They would be the ones writing the rules. For the first time in history, the fate of the galaxy rested not on humanity's wrath, but on humanity's ambition. And that terrified the galaxy more than anything else.